lot to think about when estate planning to divide your assets. More families are choosing to give away their property or assets before they pass on, but is putting your home in your children's name making the process easier, or will it bring more complications down the road? Here to break it down for us is Peter Sashecki of Everything Financial. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning.
Yeah, so we're hearing more about this, people putting their property into their children's names, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But first of all, this all has to do with probate. So this is the process of legally distributing a person's estate. So how does it work?
Well, there's certain assets that don't go through probate, and if you name a beneficiary on a RIF and things like that, but you're talking about cash assets, the house, cash in the bank, investments that are not in a RIF or a TFSA, and they're subject to probate, which is a 1.4% fee in BC when the estate settles. So you have to file probate, pay the tax. It's not that bad. I mean, 1.4%. I know I like to pick on the government, but in this case, it's not that bad. So items have to pass through probate, and that can take, if you don't know what you're doing or don't use some of the shortcuts, that can take over a year. So you have money tied up, and then you have to pay. It's still a tax, but you have to pay the probate fee.
Is that why people then choose to put their property in their children's name, to put their title in their children's name, is to try to save money?
They're trying to save money on probate, but it can bring up a lot of complications, especially if you have 2, 3, 4, 5. The more children, the more likelihood of something's going to go off the rails. The more children there are.
Okay.
And then there's tax implications too.
So is this something that you get asked about a lot, is putting people's property in someone else's name?
More so lately, and especially with all the news around capital gains, which doesn't apply to your personal property yet. There is hints about that, but we'll see. But people hear the capital gains news and they get in a frenzy and they think, well, I should be doing this to avoid capital gains, not realizing their personal property, your personal residence doesn't apply.
Maybe they think it's going to be easier down the road if they just sort of move some of their assets into other people's names, like their children, before they actually do pass on. More people are doing that?
They are doing that. But you've got to realize, if you have a child who owns another property and you put them on your property, that child's going to be subject to capital gains for that portion of the property. Say they own half your property worth $1 million, but it grows quite a bit, then they're going to have to pay capital gains on their portion of the property. But you can also gift your personal residence without tax implications to your child. But
again, if you have more than one child, that's a problem.
That's a problem if you have more than one child. That's right. So if you had one child, they stand to inherit everything. You gift the property to them, but then they own the property, so you better hope you've been a nice mom and dad, because they may evict you down the road.
Oh, yikes. You get that in writing. As long as I get to stay in the house.
As long as I get to stay, exactly.
What about the implications as far as the ability for the children, the adult children, being able to buy their own property down the road separately?
Well, yeah, what if they still qualify for a lot of the first home buyer events, the FHSA, and are using RSPs and things like that? Well, now they own a property if they've never owned before. So a lot of the first-time home buyers' incentives and tax things and everything else, they're gone out the window, because technically they're now a property owner. So there's one option. But as we said, again, what if they already own property? Well, now they have capital gains. And what if you have 3 children and 2 say, sure, put me on title, and the third one doesn't want to? How do you do all the equalization? And a lot of times, and I saw this, and you have to file tax returns too, on trust tax returns if they're on title.
Oh my gosh, more paperwork.
More paperwork, more taxes. To save 1.4%, and I had one recently where we looked at the bank recommended they do this. They cost themselves 4.5 times more in capital gains than the probate would have cost them.
So probably more of a headache and costly than anything else.
And as we always say, keep the money in your pocket. It's your money. Don't start giving away unnecessary tax returns, accounting filings, taxes, etc. Because you think you're really saving a lot of money, and a lot of times you're not really saving anything.
Something to think about. All right, Peter Sashecki with Everything Financial. Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie.
Have a good day.
You too.